Naomi was once a woman who had everything she ever dreamed of: love, family, and a peaceful home. When she married Daniel, she believed she had not only gained a loving husband but also a family that truly cared for her. Her in-laws treated her well, always showering her with kindness and making her feel like she was one of their own. She never imagined that the love they showed was only an illusion, a mask that would fall off when her world shattered. Daniel's sudden death left Naomi in unbearable grief, but the heartbreak was only the beginning of her nightmare. As a widow with 3 young children, she thought she would at least have the security of her husband's property to sustain them. However, her in-laws quickly showed their true colors. With smooth words and false concern, they assured her that they would manage the inheritance until the children were of age. They claimed she was incapable of handling the wealth properly and convinced her to sign away her rights. Days turned into weeks, and Naomi soon realized the betrayal she had walked into. Her in-laws wasted no time selling off all of Daniel's assets, his businesses, land, and even their family home. When she protested, they silenced her, reminding her that she had no legal authority over anything. They promised to send money for the children's upkeep, but those were empty words. With no home, no money, and no options, Naomi was forced to return to her late husband's rural land, a dry, rocky piece of land that no one had cared about for years. The land was so hard that even digging a foundation for a proper shelter was a struggle. With the little savings she had left, she built a weak, leaking shack where she and her children huddled together during cold nights. Hunger became their daily companion, and she often went without food to ensure her children had something to eat. Her in-laws, enjoying the wealth stolen from her children, would occasionally call, not out of concern, but to mock her. Naomi bore it all in silence. She wept at night, but by day, she held her head high. She had no choice but to be strong for her children. One day, as she was fetching firewood near her home, she noticed a group of strangers inspecting the land. They were engineers from a well-known construction company. When they approached her, they asked if she was the owner of the land. She hesitated but nodded. "We'd like to buy this land," one of the men said, his tone full of urgency. "We're willing to pay a very generous price." Naomi was taken aback. Why would a construction company be interested in such a barren, rocky place? The offer sounded too good to be true. Her experiences had taught her to question everything. "Why are you willing to pay so much for this land?" she asked. The men exchanged glances before one of them explained, "This land contains some of the highest quality building stones. It's worth a fortune in the construction industry." Naomi's heart pounded. This land, the same one she had seen as a curse, was actually a hidden treasure. But she wasn't the same naive woman who had trusted blindly before. "I'm not selling," she said firmly. The engineers looked surprised. "We can negotiate." "No, I won't sell. But I'll agree to a partnership." The men were stunned. Naomi, the poor widow who lived in a shack, was standing her ground. "I want a share of the revenue. Not just a one-time payment. If you want this land, I have to be part of the deal." The company representatives held meetings, and after days of negotiation, a contract was signed. Naomi would receive a percentage of all profits from the stone extraction. As the project began, Naomi and her children moved to her sister's house. The construction machines roared to life, and soon, money started coming in. At first, it was a modest income, but Naomi was patient. Her in-laws, upon hearing about the deal, tried to interfere. "You should have just sold it when you had the chance," they jeered. "Now you'll end up with nothing." But Naomi knew better. A steady flow of income was better than a one-time payment that would eventually run dry. And as the months passed, the numbers grew. The company expanded its operations, and her revenue skyrocketed. Her in-laws came crawling back, demanding their share. But this time, Naomi had something they had underestimated: lawyers. The company's legal team ensured that no greedy hands could snatch what was rightfully hers. The tables had turned. As she watched her once powerful in-laws struggle to intimidate her and fail, Naomi realized something profound. She had suffered not because she was weak, but because she had been uninformed. She had lacked knowledge of the law, and that ignorance had cost her everything. With new determination, she enrolled in school, picking up where she had left off years ago. She studied hard, fueled by the fire of her past struggles. The more she learned, the more she realized how many other widows and orphans were being robbed, just as she had been. Years passed, and Naomi achieved what once seemed impossible. She became a lawyer. She founded her own law firm, dedicated to defending widows and children from financial exploitation. As Naomi built her career, she often reflected on one painful truth. Had her husband empowered her while he was alive, she wouldn't have suffered the way she did. If Daniel had ensured she was financially literate and aware of her rights, she wouldn't have been left at the mercy of her in-laws. Her story became a message to all men. Empowering your wife is not a threat, but a safeguard for your family's future. Life is unpredictable, and should anything happen, a knowledgeable wife can step up, protect the children, and maintain stability. The struggles she had faced were preventable, and she vowed to ensure that other women wouldn't go through the same. Through her law firm, she held seminars and legal awareness programs, teaching women how to protect their family's inheritance and rights. One evening, Naomi sat in her luxurious office, looking at the city skyline. She had gone from being homeless to owning shares in one of the biggest construction companies in the country. Her children were in the best schools, and she had secured a future she once thought was lost. A news anchor's voice filled the room from the television screen. Tonight, we feature the incredible journey of Naomi Kigan, a widow who turned tragedy into triumph. Once left penniless by her in-laws, she now fights for the rights of women and children, ensuring that no other widow endures what she once did. She is also one of the largest shareholders in the construction industry, proving that strength and resilience can turn even the hardest rock into a foundation for success. Naomi smiled. Her past had been painful, but it had shaped her into the woman she was today. The rocky land that once seemed worthless had become her greatest blessing, and she had turned her suffering into a legacy of justice and empowerment. Her story was proof that sometimes, what looks like a curse is actually the beginning of something extraordinary, and that when you empower a woman, you secure an entire family's future.